Hi, it's Sunday, April 27th, and I'm continuing my discussion of my life as a Zersetzen survivor. I will try to add some more to the videos that I've made so far. I haven't uploaded those. The first one that I made was way too long, and I have to redo that, either put it into segments or redo part of the segments. I can trim it back and do 20 minutes, and I think it'll upload. But I tried to upload one today that was under 20 minutes, and I was blocked from doing that. So the only thing that I have shared so far are two short YouTube videos from a trip that I took a couple of weeks ago to Washington, D.C., where I was attacked electromagnetically while I was pulled off the road in an out of the way place trying to get a little sleep because I had driven. I stopped during the night to sleep off the highway, and then as I got closer to Washington, I was starting to get tired again, and I had plenty of time, so I went somewhere to sleep. And when I woke up, I was getting what I call pounded. They have weapons that make extreme vibration, or they're attached to some kind of uh, what is the word I want? Attached to some kind of mechanical um, device that causes vibration. I don't know what all's been done to this house, but I have found several things in the time I've been here. It was October 2011 when I moved in. I was in the buying process for the month of September, and it took extra time because of the Zersetzen and how things are done. So I'm going to go back to 2000. Let's see, what did I want to talk about in 2010? While I was still in Colorado, in one of the videos, I explained that in April of 2010 is when I was severely attacked with some type of weapon that screams a siren sound into your head, a silent sound weapon, for the purpose of sleep deprivation, extreme sleep deprivation, almost total sleep deprivation there for a while. And during the time after it happened until the time that I left, one day I was home and a plane appeared, and there were planes around over the house, and I know now that that was part of the whole thing too. We didn't have an airport where I lived. They had to come up from down below. And sometimes, I would be sleeping in on the weekend, and there'd be a plane. I'd hear the sound of a plane on a Saturday or a Sunday, and I know now that was purposeful. But this plane appeared, and it was one of those little white planes. And I had in another video talked about the military planes flying at the house, directly at the house. Well, this plane was one of the small planes, that you could see in the valley now and then, not that often, because there wasn't an airport there. And the plane flew toward the house and circled around, and flew toward the house and circled around. A couple times when they flew toward the house, the guy flew close enough I could almost see his face. I could almost, if I'd had a camera or something to take a picture with, I probably could have captured him with my camera, iPhone. This happened, I don't know how many loops he made around, but it was it was obviously to terrorize me. And I don't know if he was using an energy weapon at the same time or not, but he was flying directly at the house. Bob wasn't there, so I was there by myself. It wasn't cool. It was an act of terrorism, which Zersetzen is. So in 2011, when I was in the old farmhouse that I lived in for over a year, I told in another video, I told about the note that I got, and I read that about that was meant to undermine my confidence in myself. Once again, I had been outsmarted by, quote, the man, whoever the man is. And that was in May. And then later in that summer, during that summer, I woke up in the middle of the night one night to a helicopter hovering over my house and my heart beating wildly. And this was an attempt, I believe, to heart attack me, because they do that with the weapons. So there's a helicopter over my house. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's a country house. The other houses that are in the area were part of the network, so they're not going to admit that they saw a helicopter. And I was able to get my heart slowed down back to normal. But before I could do that, the helicopter had left. So I'm the witness to what happened. That was a blatant attempt to take my life, I believe, because I would have been there home alone. They would have found me a few days later after no one had seen me. And that's how awful this thing is. That's how awful it is. As I'm talking to you right now, there are some smells in the house that don't seem normal, and smells are one of the things that we deal with too with this. They have various chemicals and biological things, and I have dealt with smells when I was in that old farmhouse. I'd come home from someplace and there'd be a gassy smell in the kitchen area, and that wasn't very much fun. But there's a smell in here right now. They don't want me talking about this. I should be able to tell the truth. I'm an American. I have rights. We all should. We all should have rights. We shouldn't be being charged, tried, convicted, and sentenced unbeknownst to us. We shouldn't be called names by politicians, which I had posted about on my Facebook page, the name calling that's been going on. The fact that somebody thinks that waterboarding is okay and jokes about it. I said I was a country girl, a country gal. We look at things a little bit differently than the people who live in the cities. We're a little more independent. That doesn't mean we're wrong and they're right. It doesn't mean they're wrong and we're right. It just means we look at things differently. I said women and men are wired differently. A lot of men hunt, a lot of women don't, but some women do hunt and some men don't. It's just one of those things. Labeling. We need to stop the labeling. We've got problems to solve. Our water's being poisoned by everything that's going on in this country. I live downstream from the West Virginia chemical spill. Those people are still dealing with the after effects of that. But anyway, my heart attack, my attempted heart attack story. I also got hit in 2010 while I was still over in the other old farmhouse. I was at an Amish stand down the road, and this little white, one of the small white utility trucks, the size that they use to go around and read the meters, the ones they're still reading. And there were two guys in it, and it was going about 5 miles an hour. It had two of those little yellow lights on top. And I went out to the car with my purchases, and I'm loading up my car, and my head felt, I mean, it was like instant. So whatever they were delivering from that little white truck, an electromagnetic energy weapon of some kind, gave me an extreme headache. And I don't get headaches very often. It's one of the reasons I wear my version of the tinfoil hat now, because it protects my head. If I'd had this hat on, I wouldn't have had that extreme headache. And they drove 5 miles an hour on down the road, and they were headed the direction I was to go home. So I knew what they had done. I knew immediately what that was, because I had learned enough since I had left home, and seen enough and experienced enough. And I drove down the road, and they were still going like 5 miles per hour. So I passed them and went on down, and they probably zapped me again from their truck in my car. But I drove on home then and took an aspirin and was angry, because it shouldn't be happening to any of us in this country. One of the Native women spoke at the Cowboy and Indian Alliance, and she said they've now turned on their own people. And that's it. Describes it in a nutshell. They went after the Africans they brought over here to be slaves. They went after the indigenous people. They've gone after the Latinos, go after the gay people, go after the women. Those of us who don't fit the stereotype of what a woman's supposed to look like. Never had a Barbie doll. Always thought those things were kind of not the best role model for a little girl. Most of us don't look like that. But anyway, those were a couple of attacks that were blatant. One was right out in the middle of the day at the Amish stand, and the other one was in the middle of the night when I was woken up from sleeping. After I moved here, shortly after I moved here which was October 2011, within a matter of weeks, one day there was a helicopter, and this wasn't a military one. I figured the one that was over me at the house sounded like a military one, because I've had them go over the house before. But this helicopter was out in my front yard, above the trees in my front yard. It was pretty low and facing the house and hovering out there. And I went to get my camera, and by the time I got back, I couldn't get it recorded. So it was there for, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, long enough for me to look out and them to see me look out. It was after I had put the curtains up on my doors, on my sliding doors and the front doors. So it was in maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I moved in, because I put those up fairly quickly. As another attempt to terrorize me, why should a helicopter be hovering there? Who was that? I mentioned that I went to several conferences, and there is, when your voice gets scratchy like this, there is stuff coming in. That's one of the things I've seen with testimony in the House and Senate. One of the guys was up giving a presentation, and he got zapped. It was just like 1 second right in the middle of his presentation. He got zapped. You could see it. You could hear it in his voice. But I went to several conferences in an attempt to try to make some connections with people, and the network people were there ahead of me, and telling whatever their story is, their lies to make everybody think that I'm a nasty person, the slander, destroy who you are before you have a chance to ever talk with somebody. And when I got back from the Hawaii conference in August of 2012, I have a security light that's on the end of my garage facing the road. That security light was there when I moved in, and it was functioning, it was working. And it worked flawlessly from the time I moved in, which would have been October, until almost a year later in August of 2012. And when I got back from the conference, I noticed that it was staying on 24 hours a day. Now, what I don't know at this point is if the bulb that's in there, it's a big fat bulb that hangs down below, is the original bulb, because I didn't pay that close attention. I knew it was a security light. It worked, so I didn't worry about it. But it stayed on 24 hours a day, which I knew was not right. So I got a ladder and I climbed up there, and I found this. And this is called a photo controller. And this photo controller was made in China. And I figured that that's what was causing the problem, and that maybe I needed a new one. Maybe this one wasn't functioning anymore. So there's the photo controller that was on my light when it started staying on 24 hours a day. Which the interesting part is that happened while I was gone. And I went to the hardware store and I got one that looks like this. And when I took this old one with me, and when I showed to the guy, he said, "I've never seen one like that." He said, "That doesn't look like anything I've ever seen to put on your sensor light." So I replaced the light with this one, and it works fine. It comes on at dusk and goes off at dawn again. So, and this one, the one that I bought, is made in Mexico. So this one that's made in China, that he'd never seen one like it before, is this one of the special little things that they make that's supposed to cause a light somewhere to stay on all the time that originally wasn't set up that way. And I'm going to talk about some health issues today. And I need to watch my time. I see I'm almost there, so I'm going to stop for just a minute and start another one, because I want to make sure I keep them within the time frame. So this is Sunday, the first one,